package from fiber, as it's advertised, is probably faster than the cable package.
Who's the provider?
Consolidated has a fiber product called Fidium, which you've probably seen a bunch of commercials for.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're probably they're easily the most competitive pricing in the state. Definitely better than a good portion of the alternatives.
Gunplug we got spent on, it
Yeah,
was 120, we dropped it down to 90, now it's going back up to 120.
yeah,
Good reception.
yeah. Everyone, you need a will thing. You're the only person that's listening to spread it, right? Yeah, he said he wasn't. Right. If you have a forum, you'd like to get started. The vice chair.
Yes, please, let's begin. I mean, please open the meeting, acknowledging the floor present.
All right, excellent. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Looking for Lisa, you all set? All
No,
right, we'll wait.
give me just a half a second.
Oh, Bill. You know, I'd like to say any opening remarks. Okay. Cool.
My fourth meeting of the month of the week, so.
You're all talked out.
Okay, Howard.
You're all set?
Yep. We kept wanting to open in the web.
Has everybody had a chance to read the meeting minutes from the last meeting that Lisa passed around?
Yes.
I think she did a fine job.
Very nice.
Yep.
Y'all just don't wanna do it.
You do a great job.
I'll take a motion to.
I move to approve.
Second.
Yeah.
Oh, no, I thought we were getting to the point where we were
If
voting on it.
nobody has any comments.
Yeah, any
No,
comments? Any comments?
not from me.
Only that we changed the
Yeah,
meeting from the 16th to the 23rd, but
Thank you.
we're all here to remember that happened. We
Oh,
need to change it.
Right,
So the
I mean,
minutes should-
because that happened later. so-
Yeah.
Yeah,
I was
okay.
just saying, so we don't dream up that we had an invisible meeting and people are like, what happened at the invisible?
Yeah.
So we should always say amendment.
Yeah.
I would amend my statement of approve to approve as amended.
Excellent, thank you. Are we ready to vote?
Yeah.
Thanks. Thank you,
Yeah.
everybody. The next item is old business. Which is actually new business because I don't think we actually ever got to it, last meeting. But regardless, I put on the agenda for old business. Due to my photographic prowess, I was able to get, the double sided this time, so, the community bylaws are here, I'm not sure that I can email them to you, but, has anybody had a chance to look at those? We wanna talk about them, we don't have to adopt them right just now, we can,
Been seeing them, I'm just reading them, so.
we can get down and talk on now, make any other changes you want. We can spend some time going over them. We can adopt them at a later time, if you want more time to look at them.
Maybe if we just look at them, we can kill the next meeting and then approve them.
Yeah, we should have. Does everybody, is that good idea?
I have no problem with it. I thought it was all basic common sense, good
It
stuff.
looks it to me.
What I did was, the committee manual that I also just gave you, that packet, that is the full one, not the every other page one like they gave you last time. Anyways, so that came, this bylaw comes out of that, the legal proposed bylaw. But if you wanted to make it stronger or whatever, we feel really compelled to have some revision. Oh, great. The. The next item is the community directive. This is something I worked on. And the second page. And I just wanted to go over that, but it has a lot of the same stuff that I pulled in from the community manual. And and then it will end up in the bylaws. But I don't think we're necessarily too concerned about the community organization here for now. What I'd like to do is just kind of go over the actual community's charge, and what we can do is talk a little bit about why we're here and what we plan on doing for the next however long you guys want to be at the meeting. Have anybody had a chance to read this? Anybody have any questions? I don't realize.
Which page are you looking at?
This is the community director.
Yeah.
Okay, got it.
No, that's the one. Yeah, we're gonna start on page 2.
Yeah.
Here, 2. I feel like the first page is mostly, the way I viewed it was just a generic charge of what the sort of day-to-day kind of what we plan on doing, and then the next page 3, I guess, yeah, page 3 and 4 were more specific actions and tasks. And the first one on page 3 is really, I'd like to consider developing a town economic development plan. And, but that's why I want to go over this and with you all, and then talk about what you feel is the most important item, and then, you know, then we can talk about that. You know, we don't have to make any like firm decision tonight, we can, but, I just wanted to point out to you. I envision one of the big things that this community will do is advise me and help set policy and give me direction. And the way I see that being done is by setting goals. And I think since you all know the town and the community better than I do, I think you guys would be in a better position to do that. So after on page 3, or page 3 and 4, what I did was I took items from the former comprehensive plan and some stuff that came out of my job description, but also things that Dennis and I talked a little bit about as what we felt was priorities. And then also some stuff that came across since I've been here and that I thought was a priority. And I wanted to just talk to you about that. And so actually, the way I see some of these other items, they would actually go into the economic development plan as goals. Okay. And strategies and things, actions that I'll be working on with you. So, you know, the first one was like, we talked a little bit about the airport. The next one was the waterfront. There's another one was the offshore wind farm issue, the big. The other one is develop an inventory of all the town-owned properties. I've already done that. But what we do need to do is come up with a plan for disposition if we want to, and how we want to, if we want to dispose of them, or, you know, just come up with a process of how we want to make some decisions about that. The Old Ferry Road property, that's sort of the same idea, is basically make a decision about how we want to handle that property. I made a presentation at the last subcommittee, watching that last meeting 2 meetings ago about my proposed direction on that. And if you'd like, I can at a future meeting talk to you all about that.
Did we bring the results from the comprehensive?
That Saturday night.
Yeah, Saturday, whatever you wanna call that, the strategy thing.
Strategic planning, the vote.
Yeah, kind of, yeah.
We can do that at a later meeting. I think, I spoke to Emily about that. Because I was curious about that too.
I know that
She's working on it.
Christopher had actually written them in order. He made
Right.
a list of what people put the most money in,
Yeah,
which ones they put the most money in the order.
Emily's working for the next council
Okay.
meeting. I asked her for,
Yeah,
because I didn't take those notes.
I didn't either.
And,
It would,
but I asked her if she could send me those, and she basically gave me the line that she's recounted and retabulated. Now she's gonna prepare a written report for our next comp plan meeting.
Yeah.
And she doesn't want to release it until the comp plan committee sees it.
okay,
And, then there's the Mason Station property. Actually, the Birch Point properties around Mason Station, that's the town properties, and then there is basically the sort of downtown, decide, you know, how we can help make that more marketable. Route 1, besides it being just a transportation asset, there's some issues there, obviously. Today, I was doing some swearing, so I think I completely understand
it's
that.
just the beginning.
Yeah.
yeah. Seems early though. It's Memorial Day.
Yeah.
I know, but it's like, that's early.
Um, anyways, so there's, you know, whether or not, if there's ways you think that we can study that issue and maybe make improvements to it, ways to help businesses in that area, things like that. Rail access, you know, do you think that that that's a priority, working on trying to get passenger rail service in town? We do have a lot of rail assets. In the last comp plan, there was talk about expanded rail freight service to Wiscasset. Things like that. And the county just released a study on affordable housing, basically there's affordable housing prices. And, you know, they actually gave some action items that people could work on. And, I wonder if we could start working on that. So, you know, those are the things that. And, you know, obviously, these are just ideas, these are things that were written in the last comprehensive plan, and then some new things that came up. And I think that there'll be regular, now go back to the page 2. There'll be things that come along from time to time that we'll have to weigh in on, right? Like if I apply for a community development block grant and get it, this committee will actually have has the role of the community development advisory committee. What that means is that you'll supervise and oversee that whole grant process in terms of making sure that we're following the grantee is following following the process, you know, adhering to the guidelines of the grant. And similarly with the brownfield, we're also the brownfield advisory committee. So at some point, we do have a brownfield grant that's in place on the north point of Mason Station that will be doing some cleanup work there. And at some point, we'll probably have to weigh in on that. Sherry knows about this, we're writing a comprehensive plan. And one of the components is the economic development chapter, and I'm actually writing that chapter. But I'd like to essentially have you weigh in on that. Just generally speaking, I thought it would be wise for us to work closely with the chamber. So that, I mean, there's no, I guess it was no coincidence that why I chose Pat to be.
Why? Because that was just easy, right?
And then it sort of just worked out, we the great ones. So, you know, I think that there's ways that we can all work together, great. So there's a new ordinance that's coming around or updating. I'd like to, basically weigh in on it, like maybe the edits, if after if it's going through the ordinance review committee, that's something I'd like to talk about, like if, when we get up and running, you know, if we find out that the ordinance review committee is, you know, drafting some language, I'd like to review it for making sure it's business friendly. And so we could comment on it as a committee. We might comment on it and say, we think it's fine, and just. But. Anyways. Things like. I know I'm working on a proposal for a TIF district. I have 3 ideas or 4 concepts, actually 4 concepts. And, at some point, I'd like to talk to you all about that whole concept. And, one of them is for the downtown area, another one's for Route 1, another one's for Route 27. And then another one's for Mason Station, Birch Point area. Anyways, we can talk about that, but essentially, that's what this one line is, it's basically make recommendations for designation of tax increment financing. So you're basically helping me with that support, going forward in the community. The other one is like assist the town staff in reviewing and evaluating development proposals and agreements. For example, I wanna be careful how I parse this. This is a public meeting, but I am working right now with a major economic, major employer of the region to help them with workforce housing. It's very nascent. So I am very, I don't want to make it public. But I just did it. So, but all I'm saying is, I just wanted to let you know that, but if it comes to be, at some point, I'd like to, the proposal, like an actual formal proposal. I think this is what the community will do, is help weigh on it. And provide an opinion and give me advice on it. How about marketing? Just, to help us find ways to promote business, create a business friendly environment. And I think, and evaluate that constantly. So that, that's another issue that I think that we need to look at. The other thing is just, I think I want to just on a regular basis, I'm starting to make contact with neighboring towns and neighboring groups. Right now I'm on the chamber board and I'm out on the Lincoln County Regional Planning Commission board. And I'm working on the Mid-Coast Council of Governments SEDS process. And all those have people from other communities. And a lot of them are staff people, like, counterparts like me. And it's a great opportunity for me to learn what other towns are doing, our competitors, but also our collaborators. And I see this committee also working together with those groups and other towns to find ways to help, promote the region and our town. Any questions on that?
I have a question, but I encourage you to continue that activity. I think a lot of our solutions tend to be regional.
I agree. And I think that we don't have to actually reinvent the wheel. In my time in local government and being a town manager, I found that the town managers are really close. And whenever I've had problems in that role, with a situation, I've always been willing to pick up the phone and ask for help or talk to somebody that might know a little bit more about that issue. And I feel like, now that I'm in this role, I'm a little bit younger in a sense, newer to the profession, this sort of segment. And so I have a lot to learn in that capacity, but also, I think that also reaching out to somebody to find out how we can solve this problem. Everybody's dealing with a lot of these same issues, And I think that some people have already dealt with them, some of them are dealing with them right now, and I think that it's good to feel like you're not alone in this, and then also just get the place. So. Do you have any questions? Did I just bore you to that? Or we just?
Don't mistake my smile for agreement. No, I was not bored, but I think, you know, we hit upon all the issues that confront you and us and the tasks that we could undertake, and there's a great many, to be frank, a great many. You'd spoken earlier, you know, we have to select some of the activities we undertake because we can't be all things to all people. We have to find out where to spend our energy.
Prioritize, that's
Yeah,
what
Absolutely.
So that's what the plan is. It's like I view us is looking at like developing a list of like short, medium and long range goals. So we might say, look at, you know, well, maybe this waterfront issue is maybe a long range. I'm not saying this, I'm just, but maybe the waterfront stuff is maybe a long range goal, but maybe some of the airport stuff. But maybe the Old Ferry Road property is really important and, things like that, you know, there's certain things that we might decide that are really important. And so that would be a short range goal. And, you know, and there's some stuff that might not even be out there. So, you know, don't take this as gospel. This was just a starting point. This was really just to get the juices flowing. So. And, you know, the way I view this is, we don't necessarily have to make, like, you know, the way I view this, like, for example, like, the waterfront and the airport, they have their own committees, so some of this stuff can be delegated a little bit, because they have their own people, and they have their own people doing that. So that might not necessarily be as important to us, it might not be as important because they have people already doing that. But like the offshore wind, there isn't a committee for that. We might say though, we might make a recommendation on some of these issues that we might say to the board, I think you really should create a committee for this issue. And I'm not saying that we do, but I'm just saying that, or we might recommend that issue to a committee. The other thing that, and understand this, an issue better, if you want, I mean, like the Route 1 issue, you might say to me, Aaron, I'd like to learn more about the Route 1 traffic issue. Well, I could invite a traffic engineer from Maine DOT down here and we can talk to him about that issue. And, you know, we can have all our questions and, you know, that kind of thing. Like the rail access, you know, I can see if I can arrange a meeting with Maine DOT and their rail person. So things like that, just keep that back in mind that it doesn't have to be all done like in-house, you know, you know, when we start talking about a topic, you know, if you think about it, you know, like the Maine Downtown Center, they have staff there, you know, if you want to talk about that. You know, we have Pat here from the chamber, but, if we wanted to, we could bring in somebody from Lincoln County, the planning commission, the Mid-Coast Council of Governments, you know, the PDP, you know, things like that. Just keep that back in mind.
Yeah, Aaron, again, the chamber is very involved in many different aspects of many things because our fellow chambers are experiencing, you know, very much similar things. And so we're all talking about, you know, affordable housing and traffic issues and, you know, things that, you know, everybody is talking about. You know, this is like the first committee that's been designated to try and figure out problems. So the more the people that we can involve, who are experiencing those things, will also help us, I think, to perhaps hone down what we need to concentrate on.
Sure, I mean, I think that's a good point, you know, the point of this was, you know, establish good working relationships with the chamber, you know, and, you know, that was one of the things, you know, why not? And it seems to me like if, you know, from what you said, you know, we might want to glean a lot of information right now from the chamber. You know, they've already done a lot of work on some of this stuff, so maybe, I mean, I know you're the chamber part of it, but I mean, if you have a process that's already been in place, you know, maybe if you're willing to invite some people in to give a presentation, you know. to
Don't
talk
forget
about-
Carrie is a board member of the chamber, so, she has been involved in many things as well. But again, because we have so many different partners, you know, from every aspect of, you know, government, local governments and, you know, various business resources, small business administration, you know, all of those various things that, in some ways can help us to define, I think, what it is that we need to do. And I think the most important thing is to do something,
I agree.
you know.
So, yeah, I mean, I think that's what we're going to try to do, but then. And that process is, I think is actually, I know some people think writing a plan is just boring stuff and it's just gonna end up on a shelf. But what I'm asking you to do is help me understand what the issues are, and I understand a lot of them, but I think it's also, I wanna see action items, and then I can start working on those with you all, and create a punch list. I love those kind of lists where I can see them on a regular basis, and I can see how I'm doing, you know, that's the kind of thing I can go give this to Dennis, okay, hey Dennis, look, I just checked off 3 of these, you know, so. So anyways, I think that, that's the kind of thing that I'm to try and work towards. But I don't know if that's something you're willing all to participate in. Go through a process like that, and the way I see that is there will be a bit of a public process. And what I mean by that is there's gonna be some public engagement. And some interviewing of people like stakeholders, like I was just talking about, and we were just talking about, we might invite, you know, area experts to come in and talk about a certain topic. And then we might also engage the public, you know, on a certain topic. And then, you know, those are the type of things we might do a survey, to get information. So those are all different things that we can do to help. We might reach out to other towns, like do a benchmarking survey, as I call them. Get, you know, demographic market analysis type survey. And those are, I can do that in terms of that, just gathering data. And then we can talk about that data and see what it comes up with. And then, so those are things that we can just do general research on the topic. So I don't know how you feel about all that. I know this is like bringing it back to you, like, you know, high school research days, you know, writing a term paper, but I'm not asking you to write a term paper, do the writing. I'm just asking you to help me come up with items and maybe even help me do some of the research. So.
I'd like more information about certain things. I mean, I'm interested in finding out if there's a future for rail. You know, I mean, we have rail here and it can be an important thing, but if the demand is not there, I mean, if I don't know what we're gonna be shipping or what we have that requires shipping, you know, that's not something we wanna focus on. I don't know what the future is, so I can't speak to that. But similarly, I don't understand, you know, the site selection process that we're talking about for the offshore wind. Obviously, we have interconnection with our distribution arm that grew out of Maine Yankee. Is there a process being undertaken to look at that? Obviously, there's stuff going on up in Searsport for what you call island there. But that's a different part of the beast. We're talking about bringing the actual power onto land and then connecting it. Do you know, and does anyone know what's happening in that,
So I
in that
think
regard?
That's what Sears Port's supposed to be doing. They don't like it, but
They
they
don't.
state's
Sears-
shoving it down their throat.
Searsport is building a port.
Exactly.
And it is not
Yeah.
I'm working on a committee that works heavily in this project. In that, we wanna know what's going on and figure it out and be able to communicate with people about what it is. There are a lot of people who are working on that project. It could come here, or it could go to Yarmouth. I would think so, Yarmouth and Falmouth. So Yarmouth. It also has some spare capacity. We have the greatest amount of spare capacity, in our lines. Bohm and Bessie look at that, as well as the State Energy Development Group, through the state. And they are studying it. There's been no decision yet. You have to remember that this project is probably 5 to 10 years away.
Understood.
Even though we talk about it as if it's gonna be soon, but it's not. You know, it's a long way out, and I don't believe they've made any decisions other than selecting the experimental wind power site. And now they've made a decision that Searsport is going to get a port
Right,
to build the apparatus.
turbines and what have you.
Yes,
Right,
and I think that's
but that's
as far
different
as
from
they've got.
receiving the
Oh,
distribution. of the
absolutely,
energy.
that's a line that would
Exactly.
come in, yeah.
Understood.
And that they have had meetings with the fisheries and the maritime industry. I went to a conference up in, is it Camden?
Yeah,
You know, where Bohm and Bessie and the state and everyone was there talking, and the fishery was there, and, you know, they're not
The
happy
lobstermen
about
hate
it.
it.
The lobstermen,
Yeah, of course.
you know, yeah, so, you know, it's, there's been no decision.
No, that, I appreciate
Yeah.
that. I'm just
It
wondering.
ended up on our thing, a gentleman brought it to the attention when we were talking about it with the climate committee, and we thought, we don't wanna have anything to do with this, cause it's way too big of a thing for our little climate committee for what we're focusing on. And now it's shifted over here, but my knowledge of it, I don't think it's a serious thing to bring it to Wiscasset anyway,
I think it's a very serious thing.
really.
And I think, and we have the largest amount of capacity, and that's an incredibly valuable asset sitting over there. You have to understand too that I'm an energy lawyer, so this is like what I think is great.
I think it's great too,
You know.
electrical engineering background.
But
So
why
what-
don't you say what you said, that you don't think it, I'm interested to know what made you say that.
They need an interconnection site here or Yarmouth or whatever upgrade they can do to Blues Bay, which won't be enough. You run it across the ocean floor, which is
Nothing,
nothing, but has already caused this much political upheaval, even though it's this much of an issue. By the time they talk about dragging it up the river, which does not have a deep channel, whether they go up the Sheepskit down around the southern point of Westport, then to get to Maine Yankee and go through there. I just remember when they had the gasification plant and everybody, how they protested that, not that I was a proponent, but the amount of construction and what they're gonna have to do to bring it up that river is
it's,
gonna be
Okay, so
interesting.
you're saying more for political reasons, even,
Say environmental.
Well, yeah,
What's it gonna do for us if we get it?
not much.
That's,
Well, see, that's the thing, I think that there's a possibility, Lisa could speak to a little bit more, but there's a thing called a host town agreement, where the town could recoup some money. And I think that is really enticing. There's money that we're even at the table. And I'm not saying, we can do that. I don't know if it's guaranteed, but it's worth looking into. That's all I'm saying. I think that we need to, and then the other part is we need to be prepared. That's all I'm saying, is the decision making really has nothing to do with us.
Right.
Right.
We're gonna have very little,
Saying,
Yeah.
so,
Which is why it's like the amount of effort that we wanna spend on it.
but that's why I feel like we do wanna do some due diligence, because
Mhm.
if it happens, we wanna be prepared to make a decision whether or not we wanna support it, or support it or not support it. So if we don't support it, do we wanna like maybe make it a little bit harder of our land use plans, like, to regulate it a little bit harder? Make it disincentivize it, you know what I mean? So it says, well, maybe it's not as profitable here. Or vice versa, if we want it, then maybe we try and find a way to help them. But those are the things that we need to talk about.
Yeah.
And in order to do that, I think we need to engage the public, but then we also need to talk to our attorney. We need to do research, so I think those are the things that we need to do. I'm not saying spend a lot of time on it. I'm just saying that somebody needs to look into it.
Well,
Good.
I just wanted to say, I very much appreciate that we already have people on the committee who are knowledgeable about the potential of this project. But I very much agree that we as a committee have to do our own due diligence. There are far too many big decisions that are made in Wiscasset without doing the proper research. And especially something like this that is complex, if you don't fully know what it is that you're looking at, it's the type of project that it's very easy to have a knee-jerk reaction one way or the other. And I don't know a lot about it. I would be very interested in doing research and learning more.
Aaron, would that have any ill effect on what Dennis, when you have been working on for business down in the water, down there?
That's the question, we need to know that. I mean, that's the kind of thing we need to find out.
the square footage use is minimal.
I don't think so, because, I mean, in the sense that it would be coming from maybe Yankee, hopefully, right? So that's probably not gonna do anything on our waterfront, right? But,
I
so.
don't mean the waterfront downtown, I'm talking about Mason.
Old Ferry Road and all of that.
Oh, down at the main Yankee site, to me, that is a good use of that site. Cause I mean, that's very simple.
Was it Maine Yankee, not Mason State?
I was gonna say, those are two different.
Yeah,
So
right.
you're talking Maine Yankee?
Yes.
Or Mason Station?
Main Yankee.
I'm talking Mason State.
That's what I.
Totally,
Yeah, I really be is happy to see it at Mason Station. But I mean,
Right, because that would impact what they've been working on,
Yeah.
right?
Or not, because one of the things they're working on is battery storage.
No, I'm talking about something else.
Oh, they're talking something else, okay. Because one of the things they were talking about is battery storage, and that would be a good use for wind power.
But as your point, I agree with you, Bill, that I don't see it would be a positive thing for the Mason Station. As much as, cause I think it might hinder some of the development there, but the main Yankee site, I think,
I think that's the only reasonable thing that anybody would come to. They wouldn't take it to Mason Station or go to he
I
said.
mean, if I bring it further up, there's a
And
substation
it
at,
just horseshoes right to Mason Station on the line, so
Yeah.
they're already connected.
but just remember, we're talking a really small footprint.
Oh.
Not as big as this room. Nowhere close to as big as this room.
9 miles though, of river.
Whatever,
I've worked on projects that run 200 miles under the ocean,
Don't
Through
tell anybody.
country
Don't tell
borders.
anybody.
through international borders.
Yep.
I mean, this is like easy peasy in my world. This
Just
is-
pump the brakes on the easy peasy.
Oh,
4,
oh.
5, 7, 8, baby.
I mean, easy peasy
Yeah,
is the actual work and the actual
right,
dealing with people.
right.
that,
Exactly.
that's.
I know, that's the whole thing.
All those box spots all the way up the river there.
But it actually won't end up disturbing them at all. Gotta convince them.
Talk about when you start talking about it.
I know, yeah.
Can I say something else? You talk about workforce housing. I don't know if anyone knows, but the St. Philip's thing fell through for housing. Evidently, their engineer or architects misread an ordinance that they wanted 12, and they had to cut it down to 10, and the ordinance said they can only have 2.
I knew that from the beginning.
I thought-
told people that.
I thought churches were generally exempt from many town
No, they
ordinances.
pulled out.
Okay.
I've got a letter on my computer somewhere.
Yeah, I saw
So that's good, it calms down some people.
Well, if the answer to everything is calming people down, we're never gonna get anything done.
Here, here.
I feel like we should focus on things that we can really make a difference.
Yeah.
You know, because that, to me, sounds like a really.
So many.
I was gonna say,
higher powers
yeah, I was
that
gonna
be-
say, let's
spend
pick
a lot
one
of
that would be
energy
easy
on that.
first.
Yeah, something that we can, that's a quick,
Yeah.
something that we can make a difference on easily without stirring the pot.
Literally.
The land down there on Old Ferry Road.
Mhm.
Dennis has someone that, logger has given us a price of clearing, not clearing it, but thinning out the thing. And, he'll pay us $65,000 for the lumber.
Is that the one that has a tow road down it already, that goes down by the landing and comes up back?
Yes.
The first point, yeah. Yeah, it's pretty thick out there, so it would
And
be,
it'd be a little less if we want to take the stumps out,
How many acres are they talking about? clearing?
almost 300. Not clearing it, just thinning.
Right, whatever. Mhm.
Would we
I
have
think
a
so.
forester identify the
I was gonna
trees?
say, do we
would
have a forest
professional
management plan?
Assistance, because I couldn't tell you. what
Yeah,
these guys-
these guys are professional, they've
Yeah.
already.
Well, I understand it, but we may not want them to make that decision.
Correct.
About our assets.
Correct.
Yeah, I've had professionals come out and clear and take out live oaks that they weren't supposed to take out. You know, you gotta watch them, cause that live oak was a lot more expensive and valuable to them than that pine.
Yeah.
well, some of the trees, removing them are gonna help the other trees.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah, it's always stress.
It makes it more saleable too.
exactly, absolutely. The way it is right now, it's very wooded. I've walked that
Yeah.
sometimes.
I'm just saying, bring somebody in to take a look at it and pay them a small fee, whatever, try to aid us in protecting our resources or maximize it.
Hire a forester.
Yeah, exactly.
That's a good, yeah.
So that's what we did, we hired a forester to come in and licensed forester.
I'm sorry, I didn't realize.
Oh, that's fine.
Oh, he's not the person who would
He's
do
not the
the
person.
clearing.
Well, yeah, you would, I guess we could hire our own forester too, that would.
Provide oversight.
Oversee.
Yeah.
If the same guy telling you the value is that it's gonna make the buck.
Yeah, be careful.
Mhm.
You end up losing extra trees.
You're not an appraiser, right?
An appraiser.
Of
Right.
trees.
I was making a joke, because you want a real estate agent to also be your appraiser. Kind of-
The others go beyond bushes.
Yeah.
He gave us two prices, a low end and a high end,
Right,
and he was actually recommending the low end. So, based on our goals, because we asked them to make it so that it would be a working force, because if we went hard on the hard end, it would be hard for us to cut in like 5 or 10 years, right, so.
And is there a next step, assuming this is conducted, the area is thinned, if you will?
They're gonna make a presentation to the select board
Okay,
the next month or two.
who is they?
I don't remember, it's in my notes on my paper.
Yeah,
I can't
okay.
remember.
Is it a developer? No,
No, it's a forester.
okay, well, I'm trying to get to the next,
The next step is
Yeah.
to bring in, well, the next step is.
I meant beyond the forester.
So, I mean, I gave a whole presentation I can email to you,
I don't. need to
Is
see
it the one you did on May sixth?
yeah,
Okay, so did you, was it included in the supporting documents? Cause if it was,
it
then,
wasn't in that packet,
Okay.
but I can email to you
Okay.
very easily, yeah. But the first step was basically, once again, big thing in me is due diligence, it was basically, it's considered a brownfield. Or might be considered a brownfield, let's just leave it at that.
I was gonna say, what, were they using that, were they dumping?
So mostly, I mean, Nikki was using it for something.
Mhm.
According to our brownfield expert. So it might qualify, it should probably qualify. For federal funds, and which would be good. So we'll be able to get that done free. And we'll have what they call a site assessment, write a bunch of stuff. Potentially a survey and wetland study and things like that,
Right,
that would help us determine,
like there's slope issues and whatever. Yeah,
some mapping.
well, that's a good first step.
Yeah.
So, right,
My understanding is that the Lincoln County Regional Planning Commission has applied for some funds. They haven't been approved yet, but we should be hearing sometime soon, that's what I've been told. May, June-ish, if they receive the funds. And then I've been told by them that they would be willing to help us out.
oh, that's good.
So anyways, that's good. And the money wouldn't be available until like this November. In the meantime, we can do something else besides Old Ferry Road in terms of. Because the first step is to do the site assessment, right? And once we get that report back, then we can make decisions about what we want to do with it, right?
are we going to jump into some of these topics, or are we going to, develop an overall plan? Which way, I'm not sure I understand how we're approaching it.
Yeah, I actually wanted to talk about that. So how do you all envision that? And I gave you some information about that. I appreciate you all taking the time to read some of this stuff. The first thing I wanted to just chat with you about, so there's a process called SEDS, it's called the Comprehensive Economic Development Strategy. And so this is, and it's kind of the EDA, the US Economic Development Administration, and it requires communities to do, not small towns, but like the Mid-Coast Council of Governments and the Regional Council of Governments have a tendency to do these, comprehensive economic development strategies. And those groups get federal funds to do that. And right now, the council, Mid-Coast Council of Governments doing that. On that committee. And kind of interesting, and what they do is a SWOT analysis. So what they do is things like, they they take a look at the strengths, the weaknesses, and the opportunities and threats. So they kind of look at the community's overall strengths and weaknesses when we talk about them. Then we develop an action plan from those items. Well, actually, I'm just gonna say, before we do that, then we develop, the first step is actually studying demographics. So understand the community's demographics, so doing some research on, understand the community's background. And then you can do the SWOT analysis, and then you do the action plan. And then you evaluate, come up with a plan to evaluate that study on a regular basis. And you can see that's what they did here in 2000, essentially. And I don't know, but I thought it was kind of interesting the way they did it here. They had some community meetings, they did a survey. They hired a consultant, I'm not gonna hire a consultant, I think we all are pretty talented individuals. I think we can do it ourselves. And I don't know, I like to hear from you.
Are you leaning towards that one? I read through both of them and I found this framework for creating smart growth, this other one, to be a lot more approachable, and it just felt more, it just felt like it fit a small town
Okay.
more so. This one seemed a little obtuse to me.
Sure.
I mean, that's just my opinion.
Okay. I'm not opposed to it either way. I think that what I was actually thinking when I was doing some thinking about this weekend, I think you can almost do both. And just hear me out. You do the SWOT analysis, right? And then just one of the things you have to do, I think as part of the SETS process, is you have to come up with action plans. Right? So then that's where you would take this thing. So you would take like a focal area. And I think that's kind of what they did here, even like, notice they looked at like certain sites, like Route 1 down
Mhm.
maybe, and they focused on a certain area. And then they kind of set goals and so forth around that. So I don't know, I mean, I like both concepts. One's a little bit like, this is like, as I say, really big picture. This is sort of in the weeds a little bit, or mid-level, so, and then this is the actual plan, this is actually the weeds, this is the actual product. So. But we could, skip the SWOT analysis if you wanted to.
Oh, I actually think the SWOT analysis is the actual valuable part,
Okay,
because that's where. I mean, I hate acronyms, but that's where we actually look at the town and say, what do we need, what are we missing, what do we have? What's our pluses, what's our minuses? And that, to me, is the foundation of everything that we do. We don't need to call it SWOT though.
Yeah, no, I can see the importance of that,
Yeah.
definitely. I think I just, found this one to, I mean, because we're already talking about specific projects, and that's why I think I felt this one felt like you were jumping in a lot quicker. Yeah.
It was a little surprising to read what was the first one? It was like 47 pages.
Yeah.
And it was like, well, that's almost our whole thing.
Just cut and paste what needs to be relevant.
So yes, it was a lot of instruction that maybe we don't need for our size town.
yeah,
But SWOT is good.
Yeah, they're in both things, they just don't call it SWOT.
Yeah.
It's just step forward.
I think-
Yeah, they just call it identify.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think if you look at the table of contents comparatively, you see one of them is 2 inches and the other one's 10. So and I have to concur about the SWOT analysis. And the other thing that we didn't mention is, I thought the Stafford one sucked.
Which one?
Stafford, the third one. The one that we had
The one
done.
that the towns
Oh,
have,
the town one. Yeah, yeah,
two thousand, yeah.
It's.
It's also, you gotta think of the timeline,
Yeah,
of how much has changed.
Yeah, that was 24.
oh, exactly, I mean, it's moved.
Yeah.
And a lot of it never happened. A
None-
lot of it, people are
most
still
of it
talking
didn't
about.
happen.
Yeah,
So that's an interesting
It
thing
tells you a
to
lot.
talk about though. So here we are, we put this plan together. Do we just disband or we then become involved and kind of making sure that we move forward and actually do these things? Because if we're just gonna
Right.
take it and put it on a shelf, then what good is that?
and in 2008, they did, was the last comprehensive plan, and most of it just sat on a shelf.
And
So let's go do that.
I would agree,
Right,
That's
I
another
would agree.
great. That's a comprehensive plan.
Yeah.
This is the economic development.
But you
which
know what I
by
mean?
very,
Right.
I get
Right.
what you're saying.
I'm sure there are many more studies and
A
plans
comprehensive
back then.
plan is known in the industry as a place where things go to die.
Well, let's go do that.
They
We don't
should,
have
right.
to do that. And we can say, we will own, at the end of that day, we will own the economic development part of that comprehensive plan. You know, and we will sit here and talk and help and move things along, and if somebody has a permitting issue, we could say, what's the problem? Why is this permit not getting approved? Or.
Those are things I would really want to dig into, because there's a lot of that stuff going on, a
Yeah.
lot. And looking at the old plan, that was one of the things they wanted to address,
Right,
was to make Wiscasset business friendly,
yeah.
which we do have a business friendly certification. I
We got
Sorry.
That's
But
right, I
Things
can't.
have changed a lot, since then. They really have, I mean, it's just, we're on the track now that we have an economic development person, but, for years, we didn't even have a town planner. So how can you
Right.
be business friendly when you don't have a town planner? You only have a code enforcement who isn't, some of them haven't been trained to the level that they should be trained, and businesses come in and they have no one to turn
No
to,
one to get it,
no
get
one,
it stonewalled, yeah.
yeah,
So I would like to see that too.
We've gotten better on that.
much better.
I had nowhere else to go, Bill. I had nowhere else to go.
Yeah, that's right.
A lot of them come into our office at Lincoln County Regional Planning, asking for help. And I think that Emily and myself, because we have resources, are able to help them, but it shouldn't be just us that's doing that. It's too big for just simply us to take care
I tried for this for 5 years. I had, with Marion this year, I had job descriptions for a part-time economic planning person, and tried all different things. Finally got the rent one from the county. Now we got a full-time person for this, which we need.
Yeah.
of. Absolutely.
I think one of the nice things about if we do the plan, right? We actually have a committee now that will keep on top of it. I think that's the key thing. When I was in Wayne, I don't want to just wax on about, but I was the town manager there, and we wrote, when I first got there, I wrote the comprehensive plan, and I remember the committee actually at one point bringing up the whole concept that Bill just put up. So what's gonna happen to this thing, you know, once we finish it? And I made the commitment that I would keep on it. And what I ended up doing was, as part of the process of every reorganizational period with the select board, is I pulled out the comprehensive plan. And you know, at the back of the comprehensive plan, there was a bunch of goals and stuff. And I told the board, I said, prioritize these every year and pick your top 3. And, you know, and we'll talk about them. And we would pick about, I don't know, 5 or 6 goals, you know, every year for the board to work on. And then the way we dealt with it was in the bottom of every agenda was the select board goals. So every meeting, there was that item of select board goals. So whatever that item was, you know, we would talk about it and where the status was and what we've done about it from the last meeting. And, we held ourselves pretty accountable to it. But it was a process in which I think that the board felt strongly about. And I see us, if we get this thing done, I'd like to do that with us, is, you know, is start to hold on us, you know, holding me accountable, who's, each other accountable with the goals. And that kind of thing. So, I don't know, that's up to you guys.
And but when you get something, and we say we've got a program, then you become a project manager. Project manager is a person with a spreadsheet. And you get things, what's gonna happen when, and you keep following it up as a group, not a person. And let's say you put it on the agenda for the selectmen,
Yeah.
whatever, but somehow you don't, like, usually with the master plan or whatever, you do it and then everyone walks away. But you stay there and keep pushing on it.
I didn't feel like though that I was like a taskmaster, I didn't feel like, I didn't feel in that process, I didn't feel like I was, you know, attached by the hip with a spreadsheet.
I'm just generalizing.
I know, I just want to
You don't disappear, you stay here and keep on it.
Yeah, I'm just trying to explain to you, I just felt like I did keep the plan on my desk and it was there. And it was, you know, on my hand, and head counts and things like that. But
So I think we're talking about hybrid. Looking at the, I forget what this one's called. The small cities one, and then this one is more of a regional one. And incorporating some of the SWAT from the regional one,
yeah,
I think. That's the way I hear it.
yeah. I think the first though step though in the process, and I don't know, Kim, how you feel about that though, is understanding the community. And I think you even said it like last time was, I don't know about you, but I mean, I threw something in the packet here today. This was just something quick, but
Demographic stuff.
yeah.
Mhm.
Anyways, I just thought, you know, we should probably understand, take a look at the demographics closely and then make some assumptions and things like that and see what trends are. And what you can tell me, maybe, you know, we can talk about is what kind of demographics are really important. And I can think of something, but you know, what do we really want to focus on? You know, what kind of, I mean, this was just from the housing piece, housing study, but what other kind of demographics you think you want to know?
It'd be interesting to know where people live versus where they work.
I would also be interested, it gives us a median age here. So many of these other things show a trend over a period of years. It'd be interesting to see if there's trend line in that as well.
So what you're saying is, it looks like here, we just did like 1 decade or whatever, so you're saying maybe like, maybe 50 years or something, or is that what you're saying? Like,
No, I'm not giving a particular number of years, I'm just saying, like, here under housing units, percent change. Well, one of these is, well, they're both a decade. They're just different decades. It would be interesting to see in Wiscasset proper how the median age, if at all, has
Are we getting
changed.
younger, are we getting older?
Right, I
Right.
can guess,
Okay.
but I might be wrong,
Yeah,
You're dead on.
yeah.
yeah,
But by how much would be interesting.
And that rental from 2020 is way off.
Oh my God, yes, it's very low,
Yeah,
ridiculous.
It's probably twice that.
I mean,
Absolutely.
anything that happened in real estate in the last 3
what is that
years.
median income?
Yeah,
That median household income, that,
yeah.
I saw a different number not too long ago,
Mhm.
it wasn't 56,000, I'm almost positive, it was a different number.
It's pretty interesting to know educational stuff,
Yeah,
but that's more, I don't know. It interests me.
You get that from the federal census.
Yeah, that's true.
would it matter, like, where people work, would that be of interest?
Well, I think that speaks to Alyssa's question about distance.
Well, like commute time,
Time.
Yeah, if commute time or, you know, we look at it and we go, well, we don't have any businesses that support the people that live here.
Hmm.
You know, maybe it turns out to be this tiny percentage.
Hmm.
How do we focus on getting, so I know one of the things that I've worked on another project was somebody said, a data center, because those are like big
Oh,
commodities.
big energy user,
Well, that line's coming in.
me.
See how I said that? That line's coming in.
I mean, it's still the largest energy user you could ever envision.
It is, right? It is a huge energy suck. It also
It
creates
would be the
no
main
jobs.
answer.
No, it creates no jobs.
No, it doesn't, that's right.
It's like,
It's taxable though.
it is taxable, which is nice, but it's like you get a couple of janitors, a security guard.
And they're hiring for 40 of those in the paper every week.
Yeah.
Exactly.
You know, it's not a career path for people, you know, it'd be nice if we had jobs that are a career path. Like, they're gonna advance and grow and make more money and buy a bigger house and all of that good stuff that we want for people.
Mhm.
So, yeah,
I get it.
it's like nothing. It was
Oh,
a disappointment, I looked it up, yeah.
Yeah.
We also have to understand what is our community. You
That's
know,
true.
the thing is that most of us worked outside of our, we wanted to go home to, you know, our place in the country or whatever.
Yeah.
And so we worked in the city. And we have to look at what we have here is this lovely town. Mostly funded through tourism. And I don't know that that's going to change very much as far as big manufacturing coming in, because the cost to manufacture is extraordinary. So they're looking for, you know, other places, you know, Maine is not a great place to distribute that. You know, so you have to think of what we got that we could work with, you know, because like.
And it's not a data center.
If you look at Brunswick, I went to a meeting with, last night with Mary Lee, and my God, they're spectacular. They have the largest adult education in the state now. Because of course, Brunswick has continued to grow, because they have all those
Because you look at
facilities.
the base out there and look at the housing
Yes.
out there.
Right,
They are, I mean, I don't know how many units they put out there in the last.
Whatever landing or something.
yes, Brunswick.
Brunswick Landing, yeah, that's.
So that's where you're gonna help your tax basis, you know, if anybody wants to bring more money in.
They get real estate. It's-
I don't know about that, I mean, my daughter lives in Brunswick and her taxes are far more than my taxes here.
Yeah.
Well, they have a lot more
There's a
there.
lot of
Well,
stuff.
they have a lot of nonprofit stuff with the university.
Yeah.
You've got cheap electricity.
They're still all
Building
making
it right now coming in.
Well, they just
Oh,
built
yeah.
like 10-bay fire station.
Again, I think that,
Yeah.
you know, there's enough business, like, when I used to work in New York City and lived in Connecticut, because even though it was a 2-hour trek in, you know, it gave you the opportunity to go home to a quiet space and, you know, enjoy the lovely community that you lived in. And I always thought that we could be a bedroom town for, again, BIW people, you know, that's huge, they hire thousands.
But there's no housing.
Right,
That's what
there's no
problem.
housing,
And one of
exactly.
the things that I've seen in the last 5 years, even before COVID, people that are looking, shopping for a home, they're like, I wanna be 30 minutes from Portland.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then it was like, I couldn't find anything in Brunswick. Well, I mean, I guess I can spread it out, be more like 45, I mean, before you know it.
You're out.
And this
People
is,
are-
this is the cutoff.
This
Right.
is,
If you
this
live
is the cutoff for a lot of people.
If you live in Edgecombe or Newcastle, then you do your business that way and you work that
Yeah.
way, and that's that.
Yeah, we're right.
If you're up at
Said-
1 in the
yeah,
morning, you
that's
can see the traffic, people coming home. I live on 218 and there's like 12 cars at one time
Right.
coming off their shift in,
Right.
at the shipyard. We are that right now, but we don't have any place for them to live anymore.
No,
Right.
no, we don't need more.
We gotta build apartment buildings.
That's what I'm looking
Or
at.
cluster housing or.
Well, you know what, I just look at the successes of some of the other towns that have had, you know, old factories, you know, shoe factories and whatever that were converted into other, we don't have much of that. Or any of
Any
that.
of that.
Right, no.
Lovely
We
long
have electric
apartments.
Fantastic, right.
Yeah, that thing that takes.
We need medium income housing,
Yeah, we do.
and there has to be
Workforce.
workforce. They can't buy.
Yeah.
Well, Mason Station, I think, is a great place for multi-family housing, personally. That's just-
It is, but we got that,
Some cleanup
the
there.
power lines there, I don't see that
Well,
really.
not actually power, all that land to the south, you know. and
Oh, no, the building itself.
Where the two homes are,
Yeah,
where.
Yeah, the Birch Point stuff.
You hear the hum of the,
Yeah.
I just don't see that as residential.
Yeah.
I mean, it'd be a great spot for it if it didn't have that the power there. But
Lots
I
of people
just-
are afraid to live near major
Yeah.
power lines.
Yeah,
I would
It's true.
I've seen
I mean, you
housing
hear it, you-
that's built right underneath.
sure.
feel it, yeah.
And then there are lawsuits,
Pardon?
and then there are the lawsuits
No,
that
not
follow.
where I was, out in the Chicago area.
No.
Well, that's
I mean, I'm
a
saying
problem.
people just get worried.
That's the area, I was in the town, 1950 had 1,000 people, now it's 40,000. Tell that to someone in New England, they go, what the hell?
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to go down there and turn off the car, roll down the windows and listen, because I have driven down there,
Yeah,
but I've never done that.
There's a hum.
Is
oh,
there?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
We were
There's a
kayaking
hum.
over there at the ice park, which is, you know,
Right,
and you can just hear this.
okay, yeah,
But
see,
where
that would.
where those power lines,
I
they're on
can't
the edge of
imagine.
our property.
No.
We got a lot of land, that you can get away, on that property, you got a lot of land to get away from that.
Yeah.
You can build it at the, housing at the far end of that.
Yeah,
You know.
that's what I was thinking. Like,
Yeah.
You know, there's the station up here and the substation.
But then the land
And
extends
then
that,
all down here, where Peregrine, turbine and everything,
even past that.
yeah, right here, it's all town land, and I was thinking, and I think those developers are thinking that they could put houses in there.
That was their plan.
But everybody is different as well.
Yeah,
You know, after all, we live right here on Route 1.
I don't hear it at all anymore, you know?
Right, you don't.
It's just a little
because-
It's just like
that clock
Exactly.
ticking for an hour.
Exactly, it's
Hear
just,
it, right?
no, it's
I
Right? You didn't see that.
yeah, everybody is different in terms
Right,
of what
and
they
so, you know
hear
what,
and.
depending on the housing, you know, everybody's going to look at it in a different way.
Well, all of this begs the question of, is it an economic development goal to move that substation that's down at that point, because without the plant there, it serves no purpose realistically.
I would doubt highly that
CMP.
It will never happen.
Even
I was
consider
told
that.
I-
they are actually improving things in this area.
I know, but to that one 3/4 mile dead end. To
But
what,
they loop it. It's
Yeah.
part of the loop.
to where though?
It just loops right back. It's part of their loop.
I know, and I don't know, I still don't understand why it can't be moved.
Because they're gonna bring that power in there.
Right, but what service does it bring, that's a 1/4 mile, that's a 3/4 mile leg between that point and Route 1. And they've got already a good amount, you know, not the size down there, but they've got a little tiny thing sitting right on the edge of Route 1. You've got another mile throughout the other town, the rest of the town, I mean,
That.
I don't
As it
understand.
crosses Route 1, it's gonna go up
Right.
towards, Mountain Road.
Right, and it
And that's where
horseshoes
that's where the
next to
Canadian,
Maine Yankee, right,
direct current is coming in, they're putting up the big metal towers now, which we make money on.
right. And I'm just talking Mason Station itself, not Maine Yankee of. Might
I
be
just
something
have
to-
never known anybody to undo infrastructure.
Sure,
You know,
but we
I mean,
already,
everybody's
but it already has been, because it was for Mason Station to send the power from that plant up, and now it's just a dead end that.
Yeah, there's gotta be a reason that they're keeping it.
I think because it
It's a loop.
costs money to move it.
It
Yeah.
costs money to move it and it's a loop. They've got it, it's flowing current, cause look.
Oh, yeah, no, I get it, but we're talking about a 3/4 mile dead end.
I know, but I think it's just because it's a loop and they're not gonna tear down existing infrastructure, so they just let it loop. I think
Right.
that's- I mean, somebody else explained that to me the other day too, because I was surprised.
Path of
It's like-
least resistance.
I'm not saying it makes a lot of sense in the long run,
Yeah.
right? I'm just saying that's what they're doing. They're just looping that power,
Yeah,
you know?
But this brings up a good question though, I think that, you know, maybe the strategy, you know, we need to think about this is, you know, there's been some talk of putting a business park on the old Ferry Road property, right? Maybe that's better suited just for housing, and then there's been some talk about putting some housing the Birch Point, Mason Station, you know, properties. Maybe what we should be looking at is maybe putting the business park type thing on the Mason Station properties.
Totally agree. That's what I've been seeing. That's an industrial park area. That's what that should be there. I don't think that should be there.
Just a thought, you know, maybe that's what we, you know, that's what I think, you know, you all are here for, is to kind of help me make recommendations to the board, you know what I mean?
But are you suggesting that then housing should be over on towards Ferry Road, closer to the
I'm not
main
suggesting
banking?
that, I'm just bringing that up.
As an option, but see, to me, that might be the harder sell housing wise.
Why-
because of
why do
what's
you
out
think that? Why?
Oh, nuclear.
Thank you.
It's just,
No, I'm not, I'm just saying, in the same way that some people don't wanna live under power lines, some people don't wanna live
when I
next
go to
door to
conferences
nuclear
and
waste.
talk to people from Aroostook, they are surprised that people are comfortable living here today.
Yeah,
So
Hey,
that's not
you
a
know what?
uncommon
I-
sentiment by any means.
yes, sometimes
Absolutely.
I live out,
Yeah.
you know, out that way,
Yeah,
and sometimes I'm like, how did we end up here, you know?
I had somebody terminate a contract.
Because they
Inspections
found
came
out.
fine. It was on Borsky Way, which is, I don't know if you know where that is.
Yeah, I do.
behind Dunkin'
I
Donuts.
do.
And I'm thinking, I said to them, I said, you should not be buying a house in Wiscasset at
Yeah,
all then.
I'm a
You're
lot, and
concerned
I'm a
about
lot
rates
closer than
there.
that, yeah.
You shouldn't buy a house in Wiscasset.
Yeah, so, you know, it's,
This is, doesn't really matter.
neither one is going to be for everyone.
Contrary to local legend, we've got the lowest cancer rate in the state.
Really?
Yeah. Like, someone told me we had the highest, and I went.
Wow, where did you get that statistic?
Something, it was several years ago, it was some
Huh.
statistic I found.
the
Interesting.
people that are claiming it already don't believe it, so.
Yeah,
Well, you know, one of the things I did as part of this whole Ferry Road property thing, I was talking to our consultant about, that does the brownfield assessments. And I kind of asked him, I was just giving him a list of questions, and one of the questions I had was, about the site assessment, and I said, well, because what they do is they look at abutted properties and adjoining properties, things like that too, and one of them, obviously, the adjoining abutted properties is Main Yankee. And I said, one of the questions I had is that part of this study, the site assessment, come up with like a determination whether or not that there's a radiation leaving the property or, negative health effects, as associated from the living Yankee. And he said, actually, yes. And, so we might be able to get a report as part of the site assessment on Old Ferry Road property that says something about the Main Yankee thing. And I'm hopeful that if we can get like a third party study that kind of says, hey, that there's, what I mean, that there's no negative effects from the Main Yankee
The
property.
Nuclear Regulatory Agency should be inspecting that probably twice yearly for that.
I'm sure they are.
Yeah, because that's, I mean, they've encased it with encasement and within encasement, but, you still gotta check.
Right.
But, it's radon in our basements,
We have it outside.
Yeah.
Right in the air.
Yes,
So,
although it becomes non-whatever once it circulates,
We
but.
could also
it's
look at,
48 hours.
Yeah, but it's radon,
When I lived in Illinois, and cyanide in the ground is a natural.
healthy for you.
No,
Well, I think the thing is too, is that like in Connecticut, of course, we have nuclear power as well. And, we can also look at other areas and see, well, what happened to them? How did they develop their properties? Were they able to develop the properties? How did people feel about it? Because,
how did they educate people
Yes.
to not be as concerned?
And how did they get their stored, spent fuel out of there?
They didn't, they're all still
They're
sitting
all-
in the same
so
place.
we're not alone.
No, I think what is it, 20 some around the
There's no place
country.
to send it.
You can,
Right.
you're a mountain, but nobody
But
wants
no,
to
they
go
won't-
through.
they
it.
won't
Nobody
take it.
Wants to take it on a train,
Right.
right? I mean,
Yeah.
There's a
so-
place in Illinois that stores it, but it costs you 5 times more than storing it here.
I can speak to the Connecticut properties and, unfortunately, there's the one that's called the former Connecticut Yankee property. It's actually not too far from where I grew up, and it's on the Connecticut River. And it's on a little peninsula between the Connecticut River and the smaller river, like the Sheepscot, it's like the Salmon River. And it's funny because it's in a town called Haddam. And Haddam is actually on two sides of the Connecticut River. There's 2 towns in the state of Connecticut, but that actually are on 2 sides of the Connecticut River, and Haddam's one of them. And with this nuclear power plant is what they call Haddam Neck. And it's on that side where the other side of the river. And it's basically all wilderness. There's really nothing around it. In fact, I think there's even state land. So I think that's pretty isolated. So people they're not too worried about development issues there. At least in the DEA area. There's a town to the north of it called East Hampton. And to the east of it, Colchester, that are growing leaps and bounds. When you start going like 5 miles to the north and west, east. And then, Millstone Power Plant, they have 3 power plants right there, like nuclear power plants, but it's on this point. It's kind of just like the same idea of a station, like a little peninsula that goes right out into Long Island Sound. And it's just this thing that goes right out. So it's surrounded by water on 3 sides. And there's a railroad track that kind of divides it from the sort of the mainland. And then there's Route 1, so it's all commercial development. And then, so that's kind of what keeps everything isolated on that side. So both of them are kind of arguably kind of funky, not really great examples. Both of them, I can't say that they really hindered development, but like the millstone, it certainly hasn't hindered commercial development, because there's loads of commercial development on that Route 1 there. And then the Connecticut Yankee site, it's just all rural.
So I wonder if the Nuclear Regulatory Agency has recommendations, on how close or far you should get to developing something near one of those storage sites. I mean, one would expect they would have that,
Well, think about California and those people that all live on the edge of oblivion, and they still build there. I mean, there's, people who, think that the beauty of the ocean is well worth taking the risk of falling into the ocean, if your house falling into the ocean. But, I know with, East Haddam, it's a beautiful rural area, a nice quaint little town with a major theater of off-Broadway productions. So there's tons of people going there and little shops and, that kind of thing. So, I mean, it's not detouring,
You didn't detour us, we just went, oh, okay,
yeah, right, okay,
right, I mean, but we also didn't build next door to it.
right. But that's the elephant in the room. That's something we have to deal with.
We have we own a nice piece of property right on the water there, that you can put $1 million houses, but out the back window, they're gonna see the casts that are full of radiation.
Yeah.
Be a nice playground for their kids.
Mommy, I go around.
I think it's pretty secure.
It's open.
Be afraid of it.
Is there any follow-up we can do from the Nuclear Regulatory Commission or others
They have a
that may
community,
assuage our?
they have a community advisory panel meeting every year. This one's not gonna be in the fall. They haven't set a date yet. But that's when there's representatives from the company and a few other people there.
But I think it would behoove us to send a representative from this committee or what have you.
You can ask the question and
Sure.
just wait there and see if they look
I
at
mean,
it.
they haven't heard yet.
We don't threaten them.
We
Well,
got
but we could ask specific things, not when are you gonna move your stuff?
I can ask them, how far away should you live from these casts that it won't bother you? The
Right,
answer might be 30 feet, I don't know.
I have no idea, right?
So
Sometimes it's just psychological,
Oh, absolutely.
yeah.
So I did, just so you know, actually, I didn't have to mention. So I did look at another location, Vermont Yankee. They closed theirs a number of years ago, but they worked with the town to come up with a redevelopment plan. And it's a similar, development area, like they have a similar property from Maine Yankee. And, it was pretty interesting, what the plan they came up with. They basically decided that they would put a solar farm around the casks. And it looked like it was maybe 200 or 500 feet out with the plan again. But I think that was their version of exclusion zone, like, in other words, they didn't want people in that area around the casks. And then they also put on the same property, they put a battery storage facility, they put light industry. And get this, sit down to this, so
Where in Vermont is that?
Vernon. I could email you that study.
That sounds like a good example that we can learn from.
I don't know if it was actually all implemented yet, but I just saw the study on the website and,
Oh, a plan.
yeah,
Okay.
but what it means is that the nuclear people all agreed to this plan. you know, it wasn't just one-sided, so. You know, the Vermont Yankee folks and the town work together on this.
I like the idea of the solar or clean energy as well.
Yeah.
Kind of ironic, isn't it?
You have,
Nuclear.
you have to assume
Well,
also
that's-
that they did it wider than they needed to,
Right, create a buffer,
well,
a big buffer.
people's mind. They're safer.
And they had like passive recreation, because it's on the Connecticut River, and so they had like nature trails and boat landing, you know. So it was kind of nice, it was kind of like that everybody's, you know, touched everybody's, you know.
Well, we used to go fishing with the, nuclear power plant with the warm water out in Lake Michigan. Salmon coming in like crazy.
They love it.
So, I make a motion that we adjourn.
Yeah. On that note.
Sure,
5 seconds.
1982.
That's maybe. Where you figure when you got all kinds of newer construction outside of town, and then, I don't know, it doesn't seem right, but.
No,
Well, when you've got places built, you know, 18, whatever, right?
Right, and then you've got,
Yeah,
how many homes are being built now, and then
Right.
how many were built in 2000, 1980?
Yeah.
they're all new houses on the points, you got them up here, that's my house.
Yeah.
you gotta build a lot of houses to make up for the number that were built.
Oh, I know.
Yeah, cause, 1790 skews that number.
Yeah, it sure does.
All in favor? Yay.
Before we go, may I ask, either one of you, any of you might know, is there some sort of presentation, lecture, something going on at Lincoln County Planning on,
Yes.
yes, what is it? I can't find
It's
it.
just an option, it's.
No, but what is the topic?
It's about the development of some.
Did you?
Thank you, because I remember seeing it somewhere and then I couldn't find it afterwards. It sounded interesting.
Yeah. It's, it went out in.
I don't get that,
Okay.
but maybe I saw it on Facebook
I-
or something.
Yeah, I think it might have been on Facebook.
Okay.
and,
Did I show up in a paper?
That one was Casa Plan, this
So
said-
it'll,
Yes, right.
look online.
Yeah,
Okay,
Yes.
thank you.
Mind you, it isn't anything that's sponsored by Lincoln County.
No, I just know
It's
it's
just
there.
an
Yes.
informational
Okay, just chat with you briefly.
presentation.
Why do I not see?
Hey, chat with you quickly before you.
You told my wife I'm on the way home.
It'll be quick. Everybody, I just wanna put this.
I
saw
saw
this.
that, yeah.
This is from Fred,
Yeah.
I already got one of those,
and then,
but I didn't get.
this is my monthly report from
It's
Fred.
got some of
Did you get
this.
Well, those are all.
And you'll send us that one, the presentation you did on May 6th to the select board. You'll send us that.
Yeah, I can do that.
You know that for a while.
This? No.
Oh, yeah. I don't have copies of these.
Can you get the door?